Hello everyone, it's your old pal Tuna here, and welcome back to another video. In today's studio vlog, we are going to get up to all kinds of fun stuff. We are going to create a painting, we are going to hit up an art market, and we are going to do a ton of prep for an upcoming Halloween themed shop drop. I am so excited, but the first thing that I want to share with you here is unboxing this super cool ceramic palette that I got from Sugar House Ceramics Co., which is a relatively small ceramic business here in Canada. They make lots of art supplies and stuff for kitchens, mugs, that sort of thing, and I've been wanting a large size palette for a while now because I'm literally always filling up my palettes when I'm painting, having to get into a second palette, so I've had my eye on a bigger one, and my lovely partner decided to purchase this one as a gift for me, so shout outs to him, thank you so much, and yeah, let's go ahead and give it a try, shall we? So here I am working on another pet portrait commission. I'm sure you guys are getting very used to these. I am working in acrylic gouache here, and one of the main questions that I get is about my surface that I paint on. I usually get, what kind of paper are you using? And the thing is, I am in fact not using paper. This is a primed wooden panel. I buy a gesso board from the brand Ampersand. It comes pre-primed. I really like the surface texture, and it saves me the time of having to like gesso it myself. Not that that would be too bad, but you know, I'm a creature of habit. When I find something I like, I stick to it. So that is what I've been doing all of my pet portraits on so far. My technique when it comes to these is pretty simple. I basically start by creating a layer of midtones and then working to lights, darks, and then afterwards doing a texture layer on top, which you'll see here in just a moment. So I've used some pretty interesting and non-realistic fantasy colors to create the depth that I want to achieve in the fur with the purple and the pink, and then keeping the highlights to slightly more realistic colors with the yellow, and then now going in with a layer of white because the dog itself, she is white, and I put the white texture paint on top of the layers of color that I've created. So you basically see through to those layers and it creates the depth, but then this white adds all this wonderful texture on top that makes the dog look fluffy. And I prefer titanium white. I have been trying to Google and like find out more about what's the deal with why there's like 4 different types of white. From what I gather, some of them have like different undertones and different levels of transparency, and titanium white is the least transparent and the most neutral white, I do believe, so that is my preferred go-to. And the other question that I get is always about my brushes. I do use these ultra fine brushes that I actually just buy on Amazon. If you search miniature brush set, so like brushes for painting miniatures, you're gonna find a set, it's like of 6 or 8 or 10 of varying widths of these super fine little brushes, and I use those for all of my detail. I can't recommend them highly enough. And this was a companion piece to the piece you would have seen me paint a few videos ago where I painted the person and her dog together. This is the same dog, just as a standalone illustration, and I wanted to bring the colors that I used in that other painting into this one so that even though they were their own thing, they would look pretty good next to each other on the shelf. Tuesday Tuna checking in here. I just finished this morning the painting. You can see it behind me now. These are both going to the same commissioner, so I wanted them to be like similar but not too the same. Now that that is complete, my task for today, if I haven't mentioned already, if you don't know, I run yearly an event called Meowloween. It's like a cat Halloween merch themed thing that I started during the pandemic to give me a reason to live. Sorry, I had to fix that backline, so the camera moved, don't mind that. But yeah, I started Meowloween because I wanted to keep the spirit of Halloween alive, even while we couldn't like celebrate it in person. And this will be, oh my gosh, is this the 4th year or the 3rd year? It's the 3rd year. 4th year? It's gotta be the 4th year. This year, I really wanted to do plush, and I actually have a stuffed toy that's like in prototyping right now, and my plan was to have that be the Meowloween release for this year, but I don't know if it's going to be ready in time. So you saw me show you these stickers that I had designed for October's Meowloween theme because the plush toy is called Cerberus, so I wanted to do kind of like a Hades Greek mythology centering around Persephone and Cerberus, Persephone, maybe. I think that the plush is not going to be ready in time. So I am pressing go on the backup plan, and I basically came up with some ideas just today. I really have been struggling with like feeling like my stuff is not connecting with people in a I want to own that sort of way. And I kind of struggle with it because I don't like the idea of creating things because they will sell. I like creating things because they're fun and they make me happy and they're unique. But I felt like I had to make it a little bit more commercially viable than Cerberus if the actual stuffed animal wasn't kind of involved in the marketing, if that makes sense. So we went back to basics with basically trick or treat kitties and candy theme and stuff like that. And I mean, I love it. It's fine. Last year was Kitty Coven, which was really successful. Everybody really connected well with that. So we'll see how this year goes. So with that new plan, I have to prepare all of the Patreon stuff that's under that umbrella, and then I have to prepare the actual Meowloween shop stuff that's under that umbrella. And I am trying to optimize my work right now, so I don't have to like create like 10 different things. I want to try and create like a handful and then use them across everything that needs to be used. And the main decision that I have to make is for the apparel that I will release, should I do print on demand or should I create a really short run of block printed items? I won't go over my thought process because there's a lot of pros and cons for each of them, but I still have to make that decision. And one way or the other, I'd like that image of the two cats in costume holding hands to be, I guess, like the main image of this year's release. So I'll either cut that out and block print it, or I will design it and then have it printed directly on. Then I also want to have a few other elements like the little pumpkin head and maybe like paw prints, which I already have from the last block prints that I did. Maybe little bats, stuff like that, so that I can kind of mix and match the elements across a bunch of garments. But the first thing I have to do is get the sticker sheet laid out. So that's sketching all of these sketches here digitally. And then once I see what the finished art looks like, I can be like, yes, I can carve this into a block and it will look really nice on the, you know, this t-shirt. And if I don't like it, I can basically just use the exact same art for the print on demand apparel. And this, just to wrap things up, this sheet's not gonna get like thrown away or anything. I'm just gonna shelve it until the Cerberus plush is ready and I have like I can do like a month where it's like the Cerberus theme month, so it's like a Meowloween 2. Maybe February I think would probably be a fun time to do it. So anyway, I don't know how this is all gonna turn out, but I sent an email to the manufacturer today because I expected to see second prototypes of the plush toy already, like right around now. So if they do get back to me, maybe this will all be for naught, but at least we will have a backup plan. And it's much better to have a backup plan and not need it than not have a backup plan. Okay, I can't remember if this was like later the same day or the next day. It was definitely within not too long. I basically went, yeah, this plush is not happening, so let's execute the backup plan. So you may have seen me block print in a couple of other videos so far. I got really into it because I took a class. I realized it was super easy and accessible for someone to make these kinds of things at home. I have a pretty small studio space that doesn't have room for a full screen printing setup, so this block print stuff is a great alternative, and it also is very hands-on of a technique, and that's something that is often missing from my practice because I do so much of my stuff digitally. Aside from the acrylic gouache paintings that I do, I often don't get a chance to have this kind of fun with traditional medium, and that's part of why I've totally fallen in love with it. So the first thing that you do is you transfer your digital art using charcoal on the back of a piece of paper to the lino block, and this is like some sort of easy cut green lino thing that I get from my local art supply store. And I should also preface that I am still brand new to this. Like, I learned it earlier this year. This is maybe my 4th or 5th actual design that I've done, and certainly the most complicated one so far. And this kit that I have is literally from like art school. I had some sort of like lino block cutting kit that I always knew that I was going to need it again. So I was like, oh, I'll just keep this in my art supply hoard. And lo and behold, it's coming in handy with this new fascination of mine. So I spent, I think, about 3 or 4 hours cutting this design out. I want to call it painstaking, mostly just because of the pain that it gives my arms to do. But at the same time, it's very therapeutic and pretty relaxing as long as I kind of have a pretty good sense of like where to cut and where not to cut, which can get kind of confusing with some more detailed designs, but this one was pretty simple. And I really enjoy working a little bit bigger with the block print too, because you can get quite a bit more detail in the design. Yeah. I did end up settling on doing both the block print and the print on demand stuff because Halloween's usually a big time of year for me. Again, this year's been kind of weird on the online shop front, so I don't really know what to expect exactly, but I wanted to combine both this new passion of the block printing with the availability of the print on demand items, because when I do my block printed designs, I like to use primarily thrifted garments to print on, which means I have a pretty limited selection of like sizes and just options in general, because if you've been to a thrift store lately, you know they be marking the prices up on some of that stuff to a ridiculous degree. So I was trying to aim for like $5 t-shirts, $15 denim, and stuff to that degree, so that I know a lot of stuff has stains and rips and whatever. But anyway, so this is me. I'm gonna pull the first test print of this design, and before calling it finished, I kind of need to do like a print to see if I missed any spots or if there's anywhere that could like use a little bit more depth, like, you know, where you getting I think they call it, what do they call it, noise, which is cool. I like the noise. One of the big things about block printing is that it kind of forces me to become more comfortable with imperfection, which is something I am not comfortable with in my life, period, but especially when it comes to my art. I am a very neat artist. Seeing the quote artist's hand in the work is not always what I'm going for. Definitely when I'm doing the acrylic gouache, but less so in these kinds of clean cartoony works. But my God, I just love how the texture comes out on this particular material. Okay, we're gonna talk about that more later, but for now, here's a little break to go check out a local art market. Alright everybody, welcome to the Halloween block printing warehouse once again. I swear to God, every time I start doing this block printing, I get completely addicted to it. There's something really satisfying about it, and it's not too high of a buy-in. You can buy these like kits for maybe 50 bucks, highly recommend it. Anyway, right now I am working on the additional designs that I mentioned in one of the earlier clips. I didn't want to just have one item or one design to print on the items. I wanted to have a good handful to mix and match. So this is a spooky version of the Nori Art by Tuna kind of unofficial logo that I did as the first block print design that I did back in the summer. I decided to do a skull version, and you can see that I'm using a different color of material here. This is a easy cut kind of rubber material. It's much softer than the green stuff that you saw in the last clip. And don't quote me on this because, again, I'm brand new and I really don't know what I'm doing, but I think that this is more well suited to like simpler designs. So where I'm like not having to carve out an enormous amount of detail. Like I had a lot of trouble getting the fangs to look right. At one point I thought I ruined it, but sometimes you just gotta go with the flow, the happy accident flow, if you know what I mean. And I find that this is much easier to carve, but in that you end up with like less control over the detail. But yeah, I really enjoyed the carving process. Is probably the most fun. And then of course the thrill of printing and hoping that it looks okay. As I mentioned as well earlier, I am also doing a print-on-demand design, so I took the 2 trick-or-treating cats and turned that into a 3-color file. So that will be available as a sweater in a print-on-demand capacity, and what that means is that all the items are made to order for the customer. They just place their order for the sweater, and the distribution warehouse prints it, sends it out. It's really a great way to be kind of hands-off in merch production without having any upfront costs. There are some upfront costs to this particular technique, but again, like I mentioned, it's just $5 t-shirts and stuff like that. But here I am. I think this was the first print that I did of the trick-or-treaters on the t-shirt. I do have a piece of cardboard in between the layers of fabric just to protect any sort of potential bleed through, and I use a second roller that I happen to have to apply the pressure needed to transfer the ink onto the fabric. One of the main things that is just kind of stressful about this is that it's hard to tell how well you've applied the ink until you have printed it. You kind of need to add more ink to the fabric prints than you need for when you're printing directly on paper, which kind of makes sense when you think about it, but it does mean that I did have some seconds. This one turned out so nice. I think in the original audio I'm like, wow, but I did mute it all to do these voiceovers instead. So yeah, there's like, you can see my collection beginning to grow when I do this. The ink needs a week to cure, so the house just ends up covered in all these like hanging garments while everything is air drying. But most of it turned out really well, and this whole process is super fun. It's time consuming, it's quite physical, which is kind of interesting as an artist who spends a lot of time sitting. You're getting your whole body into it. And as you can also tell, I stopped adding the weights around the garment. I just started like putting the cardboard in between and just YOLO stratsing it a little bit, and I think it worked out really well. But if anyone has any tips or tricks or like places that I should look to learn how to do this better, like please drop them in the comments, because I am a big learn by doing kind of person, and for better or for worse, I'm kind of stubborn when it comes to actually looking up strategies on how to do better. But yeah, that is basically what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the video. All of these items are available starting this Wednesday for patrons, and then leftovers will be going public on Friday the 13th. That is when Halloween officially begins. You'll be able to get the print-on-demand stuff. You'll be able to pick up these one-of-a-kind items, and I hope you look forward to this event. I'll let you enjoy the peace and quiet of the rest of this block printing, and I'll meet you at the end of the video. And there's still more to do. I am gonna get back to block printing like just as soon as I finish this video. I want to do some printing on the reverse of some of these items, where like the denim jackets will have printing on the front and the back, etc. My bangs are looking so uneven right now, but I am so excited for Halloween. Keep your eyes peeled on my socials. I won't really be posting here directly on YouTube, so you might want to connect with me over on Instagram, or become a patron if you want to get the earliest access to the block printing stuff. And speaking of Patreon, I also have Halloween themed items over on Patreon. There is a sticker sheet, there is a print, there is another print, there is so much fun stuff. If you are into cats and Halloween, that is the place to be. And maybe it's a good time to say thank you to all of my patrons over there. Your guys' support is literally what allows me to keep making YouTube videos every week. I love sharing behind the scenes process over there, sketchbook tours, more podcasts, more me talking if you like that, digital downloads, mailable rewards, all kinds of good stuff, and these people are the ones who are already in on it, so if you're interested, pop on over there and check it out. Also, Patreon announced this like major rebrand update thing, so hopefully I'll be able to take advantage of that and make this even more of a hippin' and hoppin' place. And one last thing before I go, this is also the print-on-demand version of the trick-or-treat cats that will be available. There is printing on the front, there is printing on the back, there is printing on both of the arms. It is not a B-list item. This is just it's just a different kind of variety of item. And while the block printed stuff is gonna be super limited, this is unlimited and available in up to 5XL, so you should be able to grab it if you want. Thank you for joining me another week in the studio. I think next week is gonna be not a full video because I'm gonna be really busy prepping for Halloween, getting the shop drop ready to go, and other stuff that I have upcoming. You will hear about that soon. But until then, stay sparkly, don't let the cruel world dull your shine, and I will see you next time.